seductive, graphically sensual. They will assault your senses. They are incorporated. They will bend your mind, shatter your sanity, and seal your fate. Lethal Ladies Inc. Try us on for size. We will take your breath away. Go back to the drive-in with Dana and Candice, reliving great times, watching fantastic films, spending time with family and friends, eating the best buttered popcorn, drinking ice cold sodas, shivering as the horror invades our minds, laughing as the comedy fills us with joy, crying as the drama pulls at our heartstrings. There is nothing quite as special as our driving memories. There is nothing quite as special as our driving memories.
Okay, howdy, gang. And I'm going to kind of have to scroll up and down because I've got so many things available for this stream that I wanted to make sure I kept an eye on when Candace popped in there. And I saw her pop in there during the tail end of the intro for this extra special Friday Foolish. Me and Candace are making our return. Now, I don't know how things are going to go tonight. If the storms hit one or the other, or both of us, we may go bye bye for a while, and we may go bye bye for the night. So they're still hollering that we're going to get some stuff here. I'm not sure about Candace. When I get her on here, we'll see how things stand with her. If I seem a little, out there, it's because I took a nap. Didn't intend to take a nap. I just laid down beside my dog in the bedroom and I was out like a light. So if I seem a little, I'm not on drugs or anything. I'm just, coming out of a sleep haze is gets the best way to put it. Yes, the poet. This is a new Friday Foolish. It feels good to be back. Um, Friday Foolish is one of my comfort zones. It's something I really enjoy doing, and I know Candace enjoys doing it too. But sometimes, life gets in the way. Work sometimes is a thing that takes us away. Sometimes family responsibilities, um, illness. I mean, there's a lot of different things that can cause us not to be able to do a Friday Foolish. And as always, I don't like doing a Friday Foolish without Candace because she is the other half of this team that creates these shows. And it just doesn't feel right if I don't have her. And I'm sure she'd feel the same way if I told her, hey, Candace, here's the range. You can get on StreamYard. You can do a Friday Foolish. I I'd be willing to bet that Candace would say, no, I think I'll wait until you are able to be on there. And sometimes it's one of us, sometimes it's both of us. Um, but things are going to happen from time to time. But it feels good to be back, and we're going to be sharing all things driving memories this evening. This is going to be a rather short Friday Foolish, about 45 minutes or so, because I'm going to attempt to do the debut of Evil Dead Chicks Slasher Fest. And again, in case you forgot what movies we're going to be watching and sharing with each other, um, I wish I could stream them for everybody, but YouTube would get me, as I've said before. So, Friday the 13th, original Friday the 13th, and Sleepaway Camp. This is going to be a little bit different than the watch alongs in that we're going to just be hanging out like you would hang out at a drive in or hang out in a friend's basement, and everybody gets together and watches this really cheesy horror movie, and everybody, has their popcorn. I'm going to have my popcorn. I'm going to have my soda. Um, if you want a adult beverage as you're watching along with these two films. I think I have links for both of the films in the description for the videos. So you are free to do whatever you want in the comfort of your own home, unless you're underage, and I would prefer that you don't imbibe in that type of activity right now. And I do not advocate for that activity. So you would probably get in touch with your parents if you did that. So anyway, I'm going to attempt to do that, but I'm going to go ahead and get Candice on here, and we're going to get started talking about some of our favorite drive-in memories from the past. Some of mine are going to be from way back in the past when I was a kid. Others are going to be more recent after I became an adult, after me and Steve started dating, after Steve and I got married, um, and even including before I had even actually met Steve in person or met some of the people that I call my friends today before I met Candace and before I met Chris and a lot of other people that, I consider friends to this day. Um, and then I think a lot of us have memories of the Georgetown Drive In, which we're going to be talking about tonight. Fright Night Film Fest had a lot of events when I first started going to Fright Night Film Fest at the Georgetown Drive-In, and me and Steve have went there too. And howdy, Uncle Bill. Uncle Bill says 2 shows in a day, boss. Dana's on a row. Well, Uncle Bill, I'm going to try to have 3 if the storms don't prevent me from doing that. So stay tuned for that. But I'm going to go ahead and add Candace so we can go ahead and get started here.
Hey, Dana.
That's a pretty top you have on. I like
it's my moo-moo.
well, it's still pretty. I like it.
It's like my Mrs. Roper moo-moo. So
there you go.
I was going to be comfortable, so there I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you okay. And,
okay, good.
And can everybody, that's in here, please let me know if you can't see Candace, because we had that one snafu that time where people were like, "Where's Candace? I can't see Candace."
Oh, so my goodness.
Can't see or hear Candace, please let me know, and we'll make some adjustments.
Yeah.
Uncle Bill says, what time are you guys supposed to get hit with them? Well, right now for us in Louisville, they're saying anywhere from 4 to 7 o'clock. And I guess, how these storms do, they could suddenly just change direction. So I just don't know. It's just kind of up in the air. Oh, thank you to Poet. You can see and hear fine. So, okay. So we're good on that. I always like to check because I don't know what happened that one night where Chris couldn't see Candace on there, and somebody else said they couldn't see her, and I'm like,
I was just
okay.
talking away, and I didn't even know I could see myself, and I think you
And
could
I
see
could
me.
see you. Yeah, it was very strange. I don't know. I guess it was a StreamYard glitch somewhere because I think I had to take Candace out and
Yeah,
re-add her. It was a
we
strange.
figured it out,
I think it was after StreamYard had an update, so I don't know.
probably.
Um, so we got 7 people in here. So that's a good number. Candace, do you have any news or anything that you want to share before we get started with
Not
this?
really. Same old stuff happening around my house. So, I mean, these big storms have been crazy. A lot of people I know that they've had trees come down on their houses. They've had there's flooding where my in laws live, and my
Mhm.
brother and sister in law. They were like stranded in their area because of the flood over in Floyd County, and big hail. I mean,
Yeah,
I
I
sent you that
saw that.
video of that hail, but I don't know. I mean, it's just crazy weather, and when I was at work, like the lightning was like weird lightning. It was like purple
I could
and
see like
blue.
little lines of it that look kind of like purple in that video.
Yeah. I felt like I was in the middle of like the Metallica, the Ride the Lightning. I just like this is just insane. but
Exactly.
it but it was pretty wild. But now it's really pretty and the birds are singing. I mean, it's overcast, but I like it like that. I think it's calmed down now. As far as it coming back, I'm not sure. I think we're supposed to get some more storms tonight. Is it? It's supposed to be
Mhm.
that like that up there your way. I know Abby, our friend Abby, she said that that's supposed to get really bad tonight. So let's hope it don't.
Yeah, I'm gonna hope and pray for everybody that nobody gets any storms, and maybe
Yeah.
we'll all get lucky here and not have anything because it's overcast out here. I'm just looking out my back door, and the thing is, the sunshine is what fuels them storms because it heats things up. And if you can keep the sun in for a little bit, and I love the sun, I ain't saying I don't love the sun, but when you got storms on the horizon, it's better if it's overcast and the sun isn't heating things up. Um, but I wanted to share a little piece of drive-in news with everybody before we get started about our memories. And I told
Oh
Ken
yeah.
about this.
Mhm.
Um, the Skyline Drive-In, and y'all can look up their website. This is the Skyline Drive-In in Indiana. Steve and I have went at least twice. Once we camped out, and Steve said he would never do that again. I had a great time, but he was like, "No, this camping out in a tent stuff. I'm too old for this stuff." And then the other time we just went for a few hours and watched a few movies, and then we came home. Um, but it was a great experience. I love the Skyline Drive-In. They have great events there. I wish they could get Joe Bob and Darcy to come because that would be, a great promotion for Skyline.
Yeah.
And it also, allow maybe more people to get to meet Joe Bob and Darcy that hadn't gotten a chance to. But they are having an upcoming event in August. I believe it's August 22nd. They're going to be showing Trick or Treat, the one from 1986 with Skippy from Family Ties, Mark Price. And Mark Price is scheduled to be there. So if you want to see Trick or Treat on the drive-in screen, which I want to go. So Steve's planning
Mhm.
on getting us tickets. The tickets are $20 a piece, which I don't think is too bad.
No,
Uh,
that's not bad.
and Steve told me, he said, if you plan on getting Mark Price to sign anything, he said, I'd suggest you bring cash. And I said, well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's probably a good idea. I don't know how much Mark Price will be charging. But you can keep tabs on the Skyline Drive-In website. They may put some stuff up there closer to when he's supposed to be there. So that's exciting news, especially with the recent release of Trick or Treat in that deluxe package. Um, yes,
Oh,
Chris.
so he knows about it. I didn't know he knew. If he told me, he could have told me already, Dana. And I forgot.
I forgot that Chris had met Mark Price already, so
Yeah.
that's cool. But guys, I'm trying to sip
I
on
thought
this.
I thought it sounded familiar, Chris, but you know my brain.
He said he definitely told you.
I have ADHD. I'm very open about that. Okay, so he will talk to me. I'll be doing like 50 different things at once. He gets mad at me, but I'm sorry.
Oh, that's. I mean, I'm sure he doesn't think that's a big deal. I think he's kidding you, and Candace, when
Oh,
he's
he's told me because it sounded familiar whenever you told me, but I was like, wait, did Dana just tell me, and I'm just now finding out, or did Chris tell me? I couldn't remember.
I do that kind of stuff too. It's like, did somebody else tell me, or did Chris, or did Steve tell me first, or did I talk
Yeah.
to Candace and Chris and they said something, or somebody else said something? I get totally confused, and I don't even have the ADHD excuse. I'm just like absent minded. Um, in my older age, I guess I'm absent minded. Um, so Candace, since you are, I consider you my guest and my co host, did you want to kick us off by sharing some information? And when you want me to share these pictures, I will
Okay.
be glad to share those as well.
Well, I mean, we've openly discussed our love for the drive-in on here several times. I
Mm,
know that conversation has come up more than once, and I think you feel just about the drive-in, um, just like I do. Like it holds a special place. Like actually, my favorite pastime is going to drive-ins. But the thing is, all the drive-ins that's close to me have faded away.
yeah.
And it was very sad when the one that was closest to us, because we had one that was just up the road,
Mhm.
maybe 20 minutes away. It went out, and then we had one that was a little over an hour away. That's still close. So whenever that one shut down, it was just like, this is just so sad. But there is still some that's maybe less than 2 hours away from us that we could drive to, but it's not something that you just can pick up and just go on a whim like we used to. But I love the drive-in. It's my favorite thing to do. It always was my favorite thing to do. I love going. It's more than just watching a movie in your car.
Mm,
You can take stuff with you. You can, one of the best parts for me was just being able to feel free at the movie. You could go eat. You could bring your stuff there. You could talk amongst yourself, so you didn't have to be quiet and sit still like you would in the theater. I just thought it was fun. It was something that you could do with your friends, with your family. Take blankets, lay down, and what we used to do when we was kids. And this was back whenever the law didn't require people not to ride in the back of trucks.
mhm.
Maybe it wasn't safe, but I mean, we grew up in especially in the 90s. So I forget when they implemented that law that you couldn't, um, ride in the back of the trucks. But what we used to do as a family on my dad's side, my grandparents, and my dad was one of five other siblings. There were six siblings in all. So what we would do is we would all pack up in the back of a truck, and then we'd take two or three different trucks, and we'd lay blankets all down in the bed, and we would take pillows and stuff. We had special stuff just to put in the bed of the truck for our um, drive-in. Like we'd like make like a camping area in the back of the bed, and we would drive there. The drive-in that we used to drive to was a little far away. It was probably 30 minutes away. It wasn't right in town. The two that were in town closed way before I was born. And I'll talk about those a little bit because I have some stories from my grandparents and stuff about those. Um, but the very first drive in movie that I remember, I don't know if it was the very first drive-in movie that I seen, but the very first one that I remember was the Flintstone movie.
Ah.
And we watched it, and I think if I was a kid, so I can't remember. I think Chucky was coming on after it, and we left. It was one of the Chucky movies, I believe.
Right,
Um,
exactly.
I can't confirm that. I'd have to go back and do some research, and I think me and Chris did.
Mm.
Um, and we seen that there was a Chucky movie that was released around the same time as the Flintstone movie. So I think we left before that come on, but I loved that experience so much. That was so fun because we would lay and we would see the stars. We had all kinds of food, all the drive-in food that you get, nachos and cheese fries and hot dogs, all that good stuff that comes along with it. And I remember leaving the movie, and we all laid in the bed of the truck just looking up at the stars while we were driving home, and that was so fun. That's just something
Mhm.
that you could do, and just everybody just felt so happy, especially coming from a family that fit all the time. That was something that we could do that, everybody was enjoying themselves. They could bring their girlfriends
Right.
along, my uncles, and the it was just fun. It was a fun thing, and that experience cemented itself in my life, in my head, and it changed my life just that moment. Like I said, I grew up going to the movies. I went to the movies every week, sometimes twice a week. I've
Mhm.
seen every kind of movie you could ever think of in the 90s. It was just something that we always did. Um, Going to a regular theater, but there was nothing like going to that drive-in theater. And that movie, even though it's probably not the greatest movie in the world, it was to me. I loved it. It come out at a time, and I've talked to you about like how I loved promotions, restaurant
Mhm.
promotions of the 90s. Restaurant promotions of the 90s were so awesome. Kids from the 90s were so lucky. And I mean, you grew up in the 90s too, Dana. You know how it was. If a big blockbuster movie come out, like McDonald's or Hardee's or somebody like that was going to have this big, huge, even Pizza Hut, they would have these big,
Yep.
huge promotions where they would have the glasses that you could buy, that you drink out of, and they would have like Batman Forever and um, Jurassic Park and Casper. I remember Pizza Hut had Casper when it came out. Well, the Flintstone movie, McDonald's had that promotion. And my
Mhm.
aunt actually worked at McDonald's during the time of the release of the movie. And I remember getting all those glasses and all the promotions and stuff. It was just a big thing. So that moment at that drive-in, going and actually seeing it, it was building up. I was so excited to go see it because they brought out this promotional stuff first. And then I was so excited to go see it because I love the Flintstones. It was one of my favorite cartoons. So to see a live action movie of it was fantastic. And then I loved it. It was everything one of my favorite bands as a kid, as long as I could remember, was the B-52s. So I didn't know that they were going to be in that, and they were. And
Mhm.
it was like, oh my God, because B-52s is one of the reasons, like, I love kitschy type stuff. So that was huge. And that movie kind of became like a kitschy type movie. So probably have one of the largest Flintstone movie collections of any. I almost have everything that, like, especially stuff that's easy to find. I've got all the toys. It's in storage. I have nowhere to put it, but everything that I find from that movie, I've been collecting it for years, and so I have a huge, huge Flintstone movie collection because of that moment at that drive-in. That was one of the greatest times of my life, and that's why I love the drive-in. And I wish there were more. And it's my dream to open one day. And I think if you don't give up on your dreams, it could happen.
Right. And I think I'm going to ask if I can be a partner with Candice at
Yes,
because I would love
even
to do that.
even if it's making one in my backyard, I'm gonna do it because I like doing stuff. I mean, you've done stuff in your backyard too.
Yeah.
It's like a home theater, but I mean, you can pretend, right?
Well, I mean, me and Steve did that recently, and he's already talking about getting the projector back out. And as we've got
Mm,
a screen now, the last time we projected it on our white
yeah.
garage door, and we watched uh, the haunting of Hell House.
Mm,
And or the Legend of Hell House, or however that I may be mispronounced or mis uh speaking, the title of it, but it's got Roddy McDowell, and
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. That is a creepy haunted house movie, I
Yeah.
guess is the best way you
I've
could
seen
describe.
that before, but it's been a long time.
Mhm. And we watched it out there, and one of the reasons we watched it, of course, is because it doesn't have any nudity or sex. And if our neighbors were, had their kids and they were walking out on the street, they wouldn't see some boobies or something like that and
Yeah.
get all up in arms. We'd become the pariahs of the neighborhood or something for sure. But, we certainly could watch something a little more risque if we're using the screen, because we could move the screen where people couldn't see it from the street. So,
Yeah.
because we were using our garage door, of course, people walking by on the sidewalk could catch a glimpse of what we were watching. But I also thought that it was a good classic haunted house movie to watch to kick off us using the projector that Steve had bought.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I made some popcorn, and I actually had popcorn buckets that look like what you would get at the movies. And I brought that out there. I brought me some Coke out there, some Mountain Dew out there, and we just had a big old time out there eating popcorn, watching movies. And Candace is right. You can almost feel like you're there at the drive-in. Um, and so you sometimes just got to make it your own,
Yeah.
make your own drive-in. If you
Oh,
can't
yeah.
go to the drive-in or there's not one close by you, get you that projector. I'll tell you, folks, did not cost Steve that much. This is not, we're not talking about $1,000
Not
projector.
not these days, not these days. I remember whenever I got my first projector. This was years ago. We had a home theater. I think I paid $2,400 for the projector and the screen,
Right.
and that was early 2000s. Today, you can get them as cheap as $20,
Yeah. I
probably even
think
cheaper
they
than that.
got this one 20 or $30, I think, at best.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then
So
the
you
screen
not
costs a little
yeah.
more, but
Mhm.
Chris says, I'm going to put Chris's comment up here. Chris says, y'all missed an opportunity to wear shirts for this show of the last drive-in, and we did.
We did. That was a
But
missed opportunity.
I'm representing me and Candace,
Yeah.
but we
I'm
did.
representing Mrs. Roper.
She's doing
Get
this
to
for
those
Get to
1,000
the
followers.
1,000. Yeah, Candace will go full on Mrs. Roper,
Yes.
if I can get to 1,000, and I'm getting there. I've got
Good.
921 right now, so.
Good.
And it costs you absolutely nothing to subscribe to my channel, folks, and that's a great
Mhm.
way to support me, and you don't have to give one thin dime, to do that, and it's painless, I promise. I'm not gonna come over to your house and ask that you give me a blood transfusion or anything. I just hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss some of the streams and videos that are being put out. Because I'm still putting out content. I had a couple of weeks there where I was, either sick or just wiped out from work, but I'm back. I've been back in full force this week. Um, so, I'm going to share a little bit, if Candace doesn't mind, about my driving experiences. My earliest driving experiences that I can remember. I was a kid though, folks, and don't think my parents are bad parents for taking me when they watched horror movies. Okay, my parents are very good parents. They're very responsible parents, but they knew what my limit was. And so they took both me and my brother, and my brother was a baby. My brother was a baby in the car seat during some of these times. And then some of it was before my brother. So it was just me and mom and dad. And I don't remember anything about the food or anything at the Starlight Drive In Owensboro, Kentucky. Owensboro, Kentucky actually had more than one drive-in theater back in the day. And I believe, but don't hold me to this, folks, that there was one theater, and no, my parents didn't take me to this one. And I believe it was called the Cardinal.
Hmm.
It was an adults only. And we know what kind of movies they showed at the adults only. I don't think I got to describe to you guys and gals what kind of films those places show. How they got by with showing those types of films on a wide open screen, I'll never know, and I'm not going to ask any questions. But I did not go to that one. But the one I did go to was the Starlight Drive-In, and I will show you. Unfortunately, these are pictures of the Starlight after it had closed. Um, I was not able to get any pictures when it was in fully functioning drive-in, but this first picture that I wanted to show is, of course, the sign that you would see when you turned in to go into the Starlight Drive-In. And, I don't remember anything about this. I remember being at the drive-in, but I don't, I'm sure I saw it, but, in my young mind, it wasn't something that stuck, you know. So, that is the sign that you would see when you went to Starlight. Um, and this other picture I'm going to show everybody is you can see the speaker poles there. It doesn't appear that in this picture there are speakers still on those poles. Um, Probably due to a lot of times people would forget to unhook the speakers from their window. And guess what? They would start to drive off and that would snap these speakers. That's why if you watch old um, previews for coming attractions and kind of your introduction to the drive-in, they would remind you when the movie's over, please remember to take the speaker out of your window and put it back on the pole. Okay, so you can see some of the speaker poles there. You can see what was more than likely either projection buildings or concession area buildings. I'm not sure which, but I did want to share um, those two pictures. And I'm going to, oh, we got a buddy here. I'm going to remove those two pictures because I want to be able to add Candice's other ones. And unfortunately, StreamYard will only let you add. Well, I'm going to take that one off there for right now. I don't know why it adds it when I don't tell it to add it, but whatever. All right. So let me get that other one added here. Okay. So real quickly, some of my early memories of the Starlight Drive-In and pieces of movies that I saw. And it's funny how your brain retains some of these things. I remember Prom Night. I remember the beginning of Prom Night, which was a film that came out in 1980. And apparently my parents must have taken me along on their trip to see Prom Night at the drive-in, which I just think is the utmost in awesomeness. That my parents not only got to see, things like Prom Night, which was a big time slasher at the time with Jamie Lee Curtis in it, but they got to see Gates of Hell, aka City of the Living Dead. My dad, and y'all have heard me tell this story. My dad told me the story of seeing this movie called The Gates of Hell at the drive-in, and there were maggots flying in the window. There was a guy getting his head drilled. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've missed the greatest horror movie ever made. and years later, many moons later, I got to see it on the small screen on my TV screen, and I was just in love with Lucio Fulci's movies from there on out. I had to watch everything that man did, even some of the stuff that's not not so good. Um, but my dad also told stories before I was born of when him and mom were dating. And one time he and mom went to see a werewolf movie, and it was warm weather, and my dad had the window rolled down. He had his arm hanging out the window, and he was, intently watching the movie. Him and mom were watching the movie, and somebody he knew snuck up to the side of his car and grabbed his arm and about scared the crap out of him. But dad has he has about 1,000,001, drive-in stories that he could tell. And I never get tired of hearing my dad tell drive-in stories. Um, Mom has stories of the food, how they always in the previews before the movie and in the intermission, if anybody remembers intermissions, they would say, during the intermission, go and get you some juicy hamburgers and french fries.
Yeah.
And they would make the stuff look so good. And today, the food is good.
Yeah.
But mom said back in the day when her and dad were going and they'd go on dates and they'd go to the drive-in, she said the food wasn't that good.
Really? That was
Yeah,
always one of my favorite parts because it was
yeah,
always the best food ever.
exactly. Um, so, I love hearing my parents tell stories about the drive-in. Another movie I remember clips from was Death Ship. And I always remember the creepiest or grossest parts of some of these movies because anybody that has seen the movie Death Ship knows that an ocean liner sinks and there are some survivors left, and they board another ship that appears in the ocean. It turns out it's a Nazi death ship. It's a Nazi torture ship where they took people captive and tortured them basically. And so there's all kinds of weird devices and everything. There's film footage of Hitler on there. I mean, this is a very disturbing and creepy film. But I still find myself watching it from time to time and have a Blu-ray copy of it. But the part I remember, the part that got seared into my brain from this film more than any other scene was the scene where the survivors, once they boarded this Nazi death ship, they find a film. It's not a Nazi film. It's just, a regular film. And they're sitting there watching it and enjoying it. And there's an older woman amongst the survivors who has found a jar of candy. Okay. And why she decides to eat it, I don't know, because the jar looks kind of cobwebby and dusty and all that. But she does. I guess she figures what's inside is okay. And it looks like maybe peppermint or something like that. And she starts eating it. And as there's a couple of kids that are survivors too. And everybody's sitting watching this movie and it's dark. And the old woman is sitting behind these two kids and she's eating this candy. And whatever is in that candy starts to deform her face and make her look like some kind of monster. And she starts whimpering and stuff. And the little girl turns around and sees that woman's face and she starts screaming. And everybody takes off running. And the old woman's coming down the hallway and this ship's help me. And you're seeing her face is looking so gross and stuff. And so that was something that got seared into my brain from Death Ship. And a third film I remember was some sort of vampire film. I don't know if it was a Dracula film. I'm not really sure, but I do remember that it was a vampire film. I'm sure I was taken to a lot more. Um, the Starlight Drive-In actually closed in 1988. So it was open. I promise I'm gonna let Candace talk again
Oh,
here.
you're fine.
um, let's see. I was trying to remember the. Okay, so the Starlight Drive-In actually opened in 1947, and it closed in 1988. It was initially operated by Anderson Theaters and then later by Malco Theaters. And I remember the Malco Theaters opening in Owensboro. Um, so, uh, again, it was initially operated by Anderson Theaters. The capacity was approximately 400 cars. It closed due to arson. There was a
Mm,
fire at the Starlight Drive-In, and they didn't know. They thought it was maybe an accident, but it turned out it was purposely set, which is
good.
sad that somebody would do that to a local historical drive-in. Um, and it also closed due to competition of a new theater, which would be what Joe Bob would refer to as like that indoor bull stuff. I think that's what Joe Bob always referred to as the hard top theaters that you actually go inside a building. Um, the Holiday Drive-In was in Reno and is still in Reno. It still operates. Um, it opened in 1955. It's still in operation today. It's grown from one screen to six. And so, if you want to visit a drive in theater and you live close to or in Owensboro, you can go to the Holiday Drive In and it's still in operation. They offer new movie releases um, at the Holiday Drive In, and it's been owned by Daryl Mosley since 1978. So, as of 2018, when this particular article was published, um, it Starlight opened 70 years ago on August 19th, 2018.
Mm.
It opened 70 years ago from that date. Um, yeah. So just wanted to give a little background on some of these historical uh, drive-ins. Um, and I think what me and Candace will do, and I didn't talk this over with her because I thought maybe we would go through this real fast, but of course, me as always, I get to blabbing, and then time gets away from us, and we're at 6:43. So I wanted to let Candace talk a little bit more about some of her memories, and then I tell you what, we'll have a part two of this, folks, and we will continue discussion on this drive-in stuff because I love this. I love talking about drive-ins. I could talk about them for hours. So,
Oh, yeah.
Candace, if you want to, and then we can go past 6:45. If you want to share some more memories before we get off of here tonight, I'd love to have you do that.
If you could just share those pictures, I can kind of talk over those real quick.
Okay.
But I have so many memories from the drive-in. A lot of the memories that I have are after I had my son and taking him and my nephews and stuff and letting them get to experience movies at the drive-in too, and they loved it. They love going to the drive-in and stuff. It's been a really long time. This is way back when. This is the drive-in that opened up. I cannot remember when it opened up. It was sometimes in the probably mid 2000s, and it was around for a few years, and then they closed it down. And I think if Chris is on here, he might can correct me. They brought it back, and this is the one that we always love going to. Um, and when they shut it down, we had to travel a little bit further, which was probably one of our favorite. And I cannot remember the name of the drive-in. If we do another one, I'll talk about that one.
Okay.
But it's the one that I would always take the kids to, and we would watch like the Minions and stuff like that. But this one we really liked. We've seen a lot of movies there. Me and Chris did a lot of dates we had going to the way back when, and when we drive past it, it's really, really sad. They had the best food ever. But if you want to go to the next one, we can
Okay.
go to it. Okay, this is the cinema drive-in. This cinema drive-in, it closed way before I was born. I actually got a little information on it. This was actually one in Hazard. That's why I wanted to share it, and I have a little couple things to talk about with it. So the cinema drive-in was located in Hazard, Kentucky, and was owned by the Virginia Amusement Company located in Hazard, Kentucky, which makes a lot of sense, it says. Anyways, the Cinema Drive-In parked 400 cars. It was opened in 1953 and would it said on opening night in 1958. What opening night? Oh, okay. I thought it said that. So he opened in 1953, but the person who wrote this little thing said, "I would love to have seen the 1958 opening night of Robert Mitchum in Thunder Road there." So
Uh,
that they must have showed that whenever it came out. But it closed around 1975. So I cannot remember where this one was located. That might have been the one that was located near my grandparents' house, my grandpa's house, and he said he would sit as a teen up on the hill and like look down and watch the movies for free. And they had like a little transistor that they could hear like the
right.
stuff because they used to. I don't know how they did it back then, but when we would go to the drive-in, you would turn your radio to
Yes.
certain.
I just want to say something real quick because that what Candace said reminded me of like that transitional period where they were transitioning from using the speakers that you would put in your car window to um, tuning in on your radio dial to a certain station so that you could hear the movie dialogue. My dad said that in between times of him and mom, I guess probably going to the Starlight Drive In, they had changed over from the speakers to tuning in to a radio station. And it was probably maybe the one of the last movies mom and dad saw. And I actually remember the one of the last or the last movie they saw at the Starlight was Creep Show 2. And that was one for whatever reason they didn't take me and my brother. We stayed with my aunt Sandy and Uncle Scotty while mom and dad went. But dad said he spent about 30 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes driving around the drive-in trying to find the speakers. And finally, some guy said, "Hey, hey, buddy, did you need some help?" And dad said, "Well, I'm trying to find the speakers." He said, "No, no, no, you got to tune in on your radio dial." And dad was totally confused because this was new for him. But go ahead, Candace. I just was thinking about that.
Okay, go to the next picture. I don't
Oh,
really have a lot to say about that one, but this one here, this one is the one that I was wanting to talk about a little bit. So I'm going to read what this person wrote on this about it. It said the Grandview Drive-In Theater launched on October 22nd, 1949, with Gene Simmons in Blue Lagoon. It had a capacity for 300 cars. JC Amusement Company ran the venue, which switched screen towers in 1954 to accommodate widescreen projection and the showing of Cinescope titles. Unfortunately, 2 people were killed installing the tower by electrocution. So they got electrocuted while they were installing it. That's crazy. Um, which later on I'll tell you about another mishap. Now, it didn't happen with the drive-in theater. It was the family theater uptown in our town. They installed this big, like, marquee,
mm-hmm.
and a woman was standing underneath it when it was raining, and it fell off and killed her.
Oh my gosh.
So that's really weird that somebody would get killed.
Mhm.
It's not funny, but I mean, it's just odd. It's like I didn't even know that anybody had got killed at the Grandview Drive-In. That's really crazy. Um, but it says heavy rain between January 20th, 1957 and February of 57 led to flooding at the Grandview Drive-In, leading to another screen tower, some 60 by 80 with, there's somebody knocking. Yeah. Sorry, Dana.
That's okay.
Somebody is coming. Take take Miko out. I'm on the stream. Sorry. It was Noah, which I'm glad he came because he let me go out. But it says, I forget where I was, some 60 by 80 with an increase to 500 vehicles. So they went from 300 to 500. The Grandview Drive-In closed 20 years later in 1977, way before I was born. Well, not way before I was born, but a little under 10 years before I was born, to make way for the Grandview Plaza Shopping Center, which is right out the road here. You know, I'm always going to McDonald's and to the
Yeah.
store out the road. That's like 2 or 3 minutes away. So this theater was 2 or 3 minutes away from our house, which I wish it was still there, but we have the big shopping center there now. And it says that the last billing was on March 13th, 1977, with a double feature of Clint Eastwood's Hang on High and Robbie Benson, Ode to Billy Joe. So my grandpa, just really quickly so we can get off of here, my grandpa and grandma, they would always talk about my mom's mom and dad, and she actually reminded me of this. She said, you got to, you know, talk about this. So on one of my mama and papa's first dates, my papa took her to the drive-in, and they started watching this Western, and they used to know the name. We couldn't think of what it was called, but some Western. And my grandma, okay, come from a very poor family. She didn't have a TV. She wasn't used to stuff like that. So, you know, seeing something like that for her was very, you know, like insane. I mean, if you've never really watched TV or seen anything like that, then you go and you see something on the big screen, that had to be amazing. I don't think my grandma had ever been to the drive-in before. So here she is, her first time going to a theater of any kind. And her and my grandpa are sitting there watching it. And it's extremely, extremely graphic.
Right.
And my grandma said that she just started like, she said was like red all over. And she was like, oh my gosh, what is this? She's like, we got to get out of here. And I don't know if they left or not, but I think my grandma, if they stayed, I think they might have stayed. I think she was like hiding the whole time because she had never seen anything like that. And it was just like shocking to her. So I asked my papa whenever he was still alive. I said, Papa, I said, did you know it was going to be like that? He said, no. He said, but you know, he said, that's just what you get when you go to the movies. You got to sit and watch them. I said, I'm sure you sit and watch them just because you had to stay. He said, well,
Yeah.
he said, but he would always tell me about his at this Grandview Drive-In. He would always tell me about this movie that he watched that he really liked there. It was called Dark at the Top of the Stairs. I'll never forget that because he always talked about it. It must have been a thriller. I'm not really
I think
sure.
so. Yeah, I've heard of that one.
He said it was like a thriller, but he said that they went to the Grandview Drive-In to watch that. And the thing I'm pretty sure, the thing about the Grandview Drive-In is that they would host celebrities to come, and they would let them sing and stuff like that, I guess, before the movies would start. So I think he also got to see a lot of like celebrities there too. I cannot remember who all he would say. I think maybe Buck Owens might have been one of them. I can't really remember. I would have to kind of look into it, but I've heard a lot of stories from the Grandview Drive-In. So if we do another one of these, I'll probably be, you know, bringing those back up and stuff like that.
Oh, but yeah, and I got more stories to share, like more recent stories of going to the Georgetown Drive-In and going to the Skyline with Steve and,
what's so weird about it though is I've always heard stories about that shopping center being like haunted, and I just wonder now if it was due to maybe what happened there, because I didn't know anything about that. So that's something I'm gonna look into too. So if we do another one of these, maybe we don't have to cut it short or whatever. Maybe we can just, you know, I can talk about that too. But we better let you go so you can get to your
Well,
to
I
your
gotta get my popcorn popped and get me a soft drink and all that stuff. But I want to thank Candace for being on here with me
Oh, thank you. It was
tonight.
fun.
And I think if Candace is game for it, the next time we do a Friday Foolish, we'll just continue
Yeah.
with the drive-in memories, and that way
Mhm.
it'll be fresh with everybody. And I hope that y'all like the little picture and the intro and stuff that I put together for this special show. It will be making a return when we do the next part of it. Um,
Maybe with the next one, maybe we can talk about just movie, like, times that we went to the movies, in
yeah,
general too. We can add
yeah.
though, we always add stuff in when we talk,
Oh yeah.
it's generally about the drive-in, but, um, I'm sure we can throw some other little things in there.
But I also want to thank everybody that showed up, the poet, Uncle Bill, Chris, of course. And you guys were the ones in the chat, but I know there were people that were watching along that weren't
Yeah.
necessarily in the chat. And I want to thank those people too. I also want to thank those of you that will watch this on the replay. And I guess that is it from me and Candace for this special edition of Friday Foolish. When we return, we'll be talking about more things about the drive in and everything in between. Um, and I hope you guys and gals have a fantastic rest of your Friday night. And I hope that everybody escapes the storms
Yeah, stay
unscathed.
safe.
Stay safe,
Mhm.
everybody. Turn around, don't drown. If there's high
No.
water and stuff like that, do not, please go into that high water. And if you feel so inclined, hopefully I'll be able to have a full Evil Dead Chick Slasher Fest. If you feel so inclined, tune into that. Uh, where again, we're going to be watching Friday the 13th and Sleepaway Camp in proper drive-in style. And so we are out of here, folks. But me and Candace will see everybody next time. And we're off like a couple of dirty shirts, and Candace is off like a dirty moo but they're not dirty. But we're off like a couple of them. And we'll see everybody next time. Y'all take care. Stay safe. Bye, everybody.
See ya.